Hello, and welcome to this week's midweek mini lesson. We are in Ephesians chapter 2. We are doing verses 1 through 10. And here we go. It says, "As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins in which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world and of the ruler of the kingdoms of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. All of us also lived among them at one time, gratifying the cravings of our sinful nature and following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, we were by nature objects of wrath." I want to make sure that we understand that in this little section of 3 verses, there's a lot of past tense. Verse 1, "As for you, you were dead in your transgressions and sins." Verse 2, "In which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world." Verse 3, "All of us also lived among them at one time." Like the rest rest of verse 3, like the rest, we were by nature objects of wrath. So I just want to get that this is a past tense section, okay? Verse 4, "But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace you have been saved. And God raised us up with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms in Christ Jesus, in order that in the coming ages he might show the incomparable riches of grace expressed in his kindness to us in Christ Jesus." So right here it says, look, all that stuff that we were talking about, all the past tense things, we were dead in our transgressions that we used to live in. We followed the ways of this world. All of us lived among them at one time. Like the rest, we were by nature objects of wrath. All that stuff's in the past. But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ even when we were dead in our transgressions. It's because of grace that we have been saved. God raised us up and seated us with Christ in heavenly realms. So we are literally in two different places at once. We are physically here on earth, and we are spiritually seated with Christ in heaven. Verse 8, "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith. This is not from yourself. It is a gift of God, not of works, so that no one can boast. For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." So it's really important here that it says, "For by grace we have been saved through faith." So it's because of grace, through faith, that we are saved. Not because of works, so that nobody can boast about it. However, we are his workmanship, and we are created to do good works that God has prepared in advance for us to do. So there are things that we are to do, but that's not what saves us. It is grace through faith that saves us. Okay? So again, I want to make sure that we see the flow of this section here. In verses 1 through 3, it's talking about what we used to be, what it was, all that past tense speech. Then it says that because of God's great love for us, that he has raised us up with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms, because it's by grace through faith that we are saved and seated there. It is a gift of God. It's not because of our works. It's not because of anything we can do. I'm not saved because of anything that I can do. I'm not saved because of anything. Because if it was, then I could boast about it. And it says, however, we were created to do good works. We are his workmanship. We are the one that are supposed to actually do the works of service. But that is not what saves us. That is just what we are called to do as believers. So I hope you enjoyed this portion of this week's midweek mini lesson, and I will see you next week for a little bit more of chapter 2. Bye.